Hello, I'm Dr. Randy Brinson. I'm president of the Christian Coalition of Alabama, and we're happy here today to have Senator Harri Anne Smith here to talk about her Christian issues and our Christian values and Christian faith. It's really exciting to talk to you again, Harri Anne, and I know I've seen you many times at the State House, and I know you've been a great proponent for pro-life issues and the things that we in the Christian community care about. And one of the things that I thought was really interesting that hasn't come up in a lot in the campaign is tax issues. Obviously, we have a lot of Alabama families struggling with making their families' budgets go far enough, particularly with gas prices and food prices and other things. And obviously, tax policy is really strong on the minds of not all the voters in Alabama. And one of the things I ran across too when I was preparing for this interview is that I saw where Club for Growth, which is a very strong anti-tax, pro-family, limited government organization, had endorsed you in your candidacy for Congress. Could you tell us a little bit about how that came about and what kind of policies that they looked at that you had advocated that allowed that to get their endorsement?
Sure, and it's really good to be with you today. And I have admired you for a long time for your work in the Christian community and what you've done for candidates across the nation. You've done a great job. I mean, with Governor Huckabee, what you did for him and working with him, I want to thank you for that.
Thank you. You're welcome.
That was great.
Great,
We
great.
appreciate what you
Great,
did. But
great.
it is great to be able to be here today and talk about the tax issue and to talk with my friends about how important this election is to, I think, the 2nd Congressional District. I was very honored to get the Club for Growth's endorsement. And they actually, during the primary, they interviewed all of the 6 candidates that were running for the 2nd Congressional District for the seat of representative. And we actually all went to Washington and interviewed with them, and they told me what they were looking for was not to endorse someone. What they were looking for to endorse someone in would be not the fact that they had simply just in their states opposed taxes or their ideas about everybody can say we're opposed to taxes. They were actually looking for leaders in their state that actually played roles in working against large tax increases. And they said what really stuck out for me was the fact of working against Amendment 1, the largest tax increase in the history of Alabama, and the fact that I was the only Republican state senator that voted against every single tax in Amendment 1's package. When you vote against every single tax in that package, then when it comes to a constitutional vote, in my case, you have to vote when everybody else was in favor of it. You have to vote to allow the people to help you kill it. So when the constitutional amendment came around, I voted to allow the people to vote to help me kill it since I wasn't successful and the only Republican senator voting against it. But they told me that was the reason that they chose to endorse me, as well as the fact that I didn't just vote against it after it passed to allow the people to vote. I actually worked across the state in trying to educate the voters about how it was the largest tax package ever in the history, how it taxed property, how it taxed elderlies with nursing home taxes, cigarette taxes, all kinds of taxes that affect Alabama families.
Right. Well, that's what's so interesting, because we hear so much about this bantering back and forth about, even ads have even said that you voted for these tax increases, and I thought it was refreshing to see that someone that was outside of Alabama that could actually look objectively at your record and see where you actually had fought to raise taxes. So I thought that was very, very good, at least that an organization would have the time to actually look and examine the record of the different candidates. Did they say anything specifically about, when you got that endorsement, about any of the position of the other candidates? Was it more of the fact that you had actually done something proactively or actually advocated for this, and the others had not maybe been as strong in that area? Do you think that's what it was, or what?
What they told me after I received the interview, or in the interview, I mean in the press release, when I found out I had the endorsement, what they actually said is that the fact that it took courage to stand up in the Republican Senate caucus and stand up to a Republican governor at that time and say, no, that I'm going to vote how the people in my district think I should vote and that I'm going to oppose this tax increase because it's the right thing to do. And they basically said, because you stood up for what you believed against, I guess, against a big, powerful force, a Republican governor and all the Republican state senators, and said, no, I'm going to stand up for my convictions and vote against this because I think it's wrong.
Well, that's great. That's great. The other thing, when we were doing research on this, Harri Anne, and looking at your record for Christian Coalition, I also noticed that the Susan B. Anthony list,
Yes.
which we're very good friends with, we work very closely with Marjorie and her organization, had also endorsed you because of your pro-life record.
Right.
And I thought that was pretty outstanding. Again, another Washington-based organization that doesn't have a dog in the fight, if you would,
Right.
in Alabama, would go out and endorse you for this congressional race. Can you tell us a little bit about that, about your pro-life record and why you got that endorsement?
Sure. Been in the Alabama State Legislature for 10.5 years, and I do have a record of working with the Christian Coalition and helping to fight for family values, and was very honored when I received the endorsement for Susan B. Anthony because I am very strong proponent of pro-life and saving babies' lives.
That's great. That's great. You know, there's a lot of questions now going on actually in Congress now, particularly on that issue. Senator Obama has actually said that he's going to repeal the Freedom of Choice Act. In other words, where they would go in and say any state law that restricts abortion anyway would be struck down. There's other avenues where they're actually looking. In fact, Planned Parenthood had just become very politically active in this. Well, is there any way, if you're in office in Congress, how do you think that you could use your office there as a Republican congressman, possibly even in the minority, to further the pro-life cause?
Well, when you said the word minority, I'm a woman.
Right.
And I think being a woman and never being blessed with any children and understanding truly what the sanctity of life means, I think I would be a strong advocate for standing up and trying to express how strongly I feel about the sanctity of life.
That's great. That's great. The other area is that when we've talked to different people, obviously they're worried about the economy, and we've talked about tax policy, we've talked about pro-life. Traditional marriage obviously is another thing that's very, very important
Exactly.
to all Christians. What are some things that you think that you would like to let the Christian audience know of your own positions and things that you're staking out, ideas that you have, of how you in Congress can help further those ideals that many of us in Alabama, the Christian values and things that we were important to, and what we're being assailed with? You know, we're getting attacked by so many things, particularly from the liberal left. What do you think that is the best thing or the first things that you would like to do as priorities as we as Christians look at what candidate we want to support? What things do you want to strike out as far as positions that would help those issues?
There was an issue this session that has been brought up, but we've never really addressed it in Alabama at the state level yet, and it's becoming really out of hand, and that is that Alabama has the highest divorce rate in the nation.
Right.
And to me, that means we really, as public officials and public leaders, and in our faith-based communities, we need to take a stand on this issue and work on this issue and really do some things that would strengthen the covenant of marriage. And I think that's one of the things that I'd really like to look at, and how I can be helpful in the 2nd Congressional District, whether it be education, whether it be helping the faith-based communities, and also taking that issue to Washington. I think that's really important for Alabama families, is to help strengthen marriage.